My beloved brothers and sisters, sometimes in life, we hold on to things thinking we are being patient, thinking it's our test, and perhaps it is, but what if that very thing you're clinging to is what Allah wants you to let go of? You see, Allah in His infinite wisdom guides us not only towards what is good, but also away from what is harmful. We must learn to recognize the signs. 1. When your heart feels uneasy, the Prophet said, sin is what creates restlessness in your heart. If something constantly weighs your heart down despite istikara, despite effort, maybe that's not where you belong. Your heart is trying to tell you what your tongue refuses to admit. 2. When obstacles keep appearing, you try again and again, but every road is blocked. Allah says in the Quran, but perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:116. Sometimes Allah places a wall because the road beyond it leads to destruction. 3. When Barakah disappears, you lose peace, time slips, nothing seems to flourish. This is not always a punishment, it could be a divine redirection. Allah removes Barakah to make you realize you don't belong here. 4. When your deen begins to suffer, the moment something begins to drag you away from your salah, from your Quran, from your dhikr, ask yourself, is this pulling me toward Allah or away from Him? Wallahi, anything that takes you away from your Lord is not worth holding on to. 5. When you are being harmed, not helped, this life is not meant for you to endure unnecessary pain at the hands of others. If you are being emotionally, mentally, or spiritually crushed, walk away. Islam came to uplift, not to imprison. 6. When you feel stuck, not growing, a healthy relationship, job, or environment pushes you closer to Jannah. If you're not growing in taqwa, in peace, in purpose, then what's the point? You're not a tree with roots you can move. For the sake of your akhirah, move. 7. When every door remains closed after sincere effort, you've prayed, you've tried, you've waited, but every time the answer is clear. Remember, a closed door from Allah is protection, not rejection. Sometimes we don't hear the answer because we're too busy insisting on the question. Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. He sees what you don't. Sometimes what you think is love is a test. What you think is loyalty is trauma. What you think is your future is a trap. So when Allah shows you these signs, walk away and walk with faith, not fear. Because what lies ahead is always better than what He asks you to leave behind. Indeed, with hardship comes ease. Quran 94:6. Have tawakkul. When Allah removes, He replaces. When He delays, He's preparing. And when He closes a door, He opens one that leads to peace both in this world and the next. May Allah give us clarity, the courage to walk away when we must, and the patience to trust His plan. Ameen. There are times in life when everything looks fine on the outside, but inside, something doesn't sit right. You pray, you try to convince yourself it's just your nafs, just overthinking. But deep within, your heart is unsettled. That constant tug in your chest, the anxiety that rises even when things seem to be going smoothly, that's not something to ignore. In Islam, the heart is not just a physical organ. It's a place of spiritual intuition. When the Prophet said, consult your heart even if people give you fatwa after fatwa, he was teaching us that your heart sometimes knows when something is wrong, even when logic says otherwise. That uneasiness, that restlessness, is a message from Allah. It's a quiet signal saying, this path may not be right for you. This isn't about making hasty decisions or walking away at the first sign of discomfort. No. It's about recognizing that when your soul feels caged, when your prayers become dry, when joy becomes rare, then perhaps Allah is gently guiding you away from what is harmful, even if you don't see it yet. We often suppress that feeling, hoping it'll disappear. We label it as weakness or a lack of sabr, but Allah never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear, and sometimes that burden is not yours to carry at all. The discomfort that doesn't fade even with patience and prayer might be a sign that Allah is inviting you to take a step toward peace, toward something better toward Him. You keep trying, you plan, you put in the effort, and you make sincere dua. But no matter what you do, it feels like something keeps getting in the way. One door shuts, then another, and just when you think things are finally going to work out, something unexpected happens again. These aren't coincidences. Repeated obstacles aren't always signs of failure. Sometimes they're signs of divine protection. When Allah places barrier after barrier in your path, it's not to frustrate you, it's to redirect you. We often see a path and think, this is it, this must be good for me. But Allah knows what lies further down that road, and in His mercy, He blocks it. Even though it feels painful, even though it might break your heart, those obstacles are a way of Him saying, I have something better for you. Trust me. In the Quran, we see stories of people whose plans didn't go as expected, not because they lacked effort, but because Allah had a different outcome in store. Think of Prophet Musa as and how many unexpected turns his life took before he reached his true purpose. The detours were part of the journey, not distractions from it. So when you encounter the same blocks again and again, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, is this test pushing me to grow, or is it a wall I'm not meant to climb? Because sometimes Allah doesn't remove the wall, He wants you to turn around and choose a new path. Not every struggle is meant to be conquered. Some are meant to show you that this isn't the way. If you've made sincere effort, prayed, and still nothing is moving forward, consider the possibility that these obstacles are not against you, they're saving you. And one day you'll look back and thank Allah for every no, every delay, and every road that didn't open because it led you to something far greater. Sometimes everything around you remains the same, your job, your routine, your relationships, but something feels different. You wake up tired, your time slips away, your wealth doesn't stretch like it used to, and the peace you once had begins to fade. That's not just life getting harder. That might be a sign that the barakah, the divine blessing, is being lifted. Barakah is not about having more, it's about having enough with peace and ease. It's the unseen presence of Allah in your time, wealth, energy, and heart. When barakah is there, you get more done in less time. Your money goes further. Your relationships feel fulfilling. But when Allah removes barakah from a situation, you can be doing all the right things outwardly, yet still feel like you're drowning. That is not something to ignore. If you find that despite your efforts, your spiritual connection is fading, your days are filled with tension, and nothing seems to bear fruit, it could be a sign that you're in a place, a relationship, or a situation that is no longer good for your soul. Allah may be showing you that He is no longer placing His blessing in what you're pursuing. It's a quiet, yet powerful signal, not meant to break you, but to wake you. Loss of barakah is one of the ways Allah gently redirects His servant. It's not a punishment, it's an invitation to pause, to reflect, and to ask, is this still serving my deen? Is this still helping me get closer to Allah? Because when Allah blesses something, even hardship carries sweetness. But when His blessing is removed, even ease feels heavy. So pay attention to the shift. When the barakah begins to disappear, it may be time to reconsider where you're standing. Sometimes the most merciful thing Allah can do for you is make you uncomfortable so that you seek His comfort in the right place. There are moments in life when you feel yourself slowly slipping away from the closeness you once had with Allah. Your salah becomes rushed or delayed, the Quran gathers dust, and the remembrance that once brought peace now feels distant. It doesn't happen overnight. It's subtle, gradual, and dangerously quiet. And if you trace it back, often you'll find that it started when you allowed something into your life that began to pull you in a different direction. When you're involved in something that consistently distracts you from your worship, that steals the stillness of your heart, or that drowns out your conscience, it could be a sign that Allah is showing you, this isn't the path you were meant to take. The further you go, the heavier your soul feels. That heaviness is not just stress, it's the weight of distance from the one who created peace itself. Allah tells us in the Quran, so remember me, I will remember you. When that remembrance fades, when you no longer feel moved by a verse or miss a prayer without regret, something has gone wrong, and often it's tied to a person, an environment, a habit, or a choice that is slowly dimming your light. That's not where Allah wants you to be. The sweetness of faith is a gift, and when it begins to disappear, it's a wake-up call. Allah is most merciful, but He also guides through signs. If what you're doing or who you're with causes your heart to harden, your doors to weaken, and your connection to fade, He may be showing you that it's time to walk away, because no worldly gain is worth losing your closeness to Allah. Nothing you love should come at the cost of the one who loves you most. When your soul begins to feel starved, when your prayers feel empty, and when you no longer feel the calm you once had, take it seriously. That distance isn't natural. It's a sign, and it may be the most merciful warning you ever receive. When you find yourself constantly belittled, hurt, manipulated, or made to feel small, it's not just a bad phase, it may be a clear sign that this situation is not right for you. Islam teaches us about patience, about enduring tests, but it never teaches us to accept oppression or allow others to break our spirit. Allah is Al-Adl, the most just, and He never approves of injustice, especially when it's done repeatedly and without remorse. Being patient doesn't mean becoming silent in the face of harm. It doesn't mean staying where your dignity is trampled, where your worth is ignored, or where your heart is slowly turning numb. If you're in a relationship, a job, or an environment where you are being mistreated, whether emotionally, physically, mentally, or spiritually, Allah may be showing you that it's time to protect yourself. Your soul is sacred. Your heart is not meant to be used as a punching bag in the name of Sabr. You were not created to constantly walk on eggshells, to fear being yourself, or to beg for basic respect. Islam values honor, both given and received, and if someone consistently crosses your boundaries, humiliates you, or uses religion as a tool to control you, that's not love, and it's certainly not piety. That's a form of toxicity that Allah may be giving you the strength to walk away from. Remember, the Prophet said, there should be neither harming nor reciprocating harm. This means your pain matters. Your silence does not earn you closeness to Allah if it means enduring continuous abuse. Walking away from harm is not weakness, it's wisdom, and it may be the very step that reconnects you with your own self, worth, and your Lord. Sometimes we stay because we hope they'll change. Sometimes we fear that leaving is failure, but the real failure is staying in a place where your iman, peace, and dignity are slowly eroded. When harm becomes a pattern, not a mistake, Allah might be telling you, you've done your part, now it's time to let go. And when you do, trust that He sees, He knows, and He will compensate you with something healthier, purer, and far more deserving of your heart. You might be doing everything you're supposed to, praying on time, fasting, reading Quran occasionally, but something inside feels stagnant. You're not moving forward in your faith. The connection that once brought you peace now feels distant. The joy that used to fill your heart when making dua or standing in prayer has faded. It's not always because of laziness or lack of effort. Sometimes the environment you're in is quietly suffocating your spiritual growth. Faith is like a plant. It needs the right soil, light, and care to grow. If you're surrounded by negativity, worldly distractions, or relationships that constantly pull you away from remembering Allah, it becomes harder for your iman to thrive. You might not notice it at first, but over time, you stop reflecting, you stop growing, and you become numb to what once moved you deeply. That numbness is not normal. It's a sign that something around you is dimming your spiritual light. When you're in a place where you can't speak freely about Allah, where modesty is mocked, where sin is normalized, or where sincerity is questioned, you start to shrink inwardly. You feel guilty for wanting to be better. You fear judgment not for your mistakes, but for your desire to improve. That's not a healthy space for your soul. Allah wants you to flourish, not to just survive in silence. If your heart feels like it's on pause, if your prayers have become robotic, and your Quran feels distant, look around. Is the space you're in helping you grow, or is it keeping you stuck? You were not created to stay the same. Allah calls you forward toward elevation, purification, and nearness to Him. And when you're in a place that resists that journey, He might be gently telling you, this isn't where your heart was meant to bloom. It takes courage to leave what is familiar, but staying in a place that keeps you spiritually numb is far more dangerous. True growth comes when you make space for it, when you choose environments, people, and paths that nourish your Iman, and sometimes that starts by walking away from what's quietly holding you back. There are moments in life when you're so emotionally invested in something that it's hard to see clearly. You want it to work. You've prayed, you've waited, and you've poured your heart into it. But then the people you trust, those who know you, who care for you, who have wisdom and experience, start to express concern. They're not being negative. They're not trying to discourage you. They're simply seeing what you might be too close to notice. Trusted counsel is a gift from Allah. In fact, the Prophet said, the religion is sincere advice. When the people around you, those who fear Allah, who love you sincerely, and who have guided you well in the past, begin to say, this doesn't feel right, or be careful, it's not something to dismiss. Their insight could be Allah's way of protecting you from what you cannot see. Sometimes our attachment blinds us. We ignore the red flags, explain away harmful behavior, or convince ourselves that things will change. But the people on the outside often see things more objectively. They may not feel what you feel, but they also aren't clouded by emotion. And if several voices are saying the same thing, especially those whose advice has proven wise before, it's a sign worth pausing for. This isn't about letting others control your decisions. It's about recognizing that guidance sometimes comes through the people Allah places in your life. Those who remind you of your worth, your purpose, and your akhara are not obstacles. They are mirrors. They reflect back to you what you might be avoiding. When wise counsel becomes consistent and your trusted voices grow more concerned, it may be Allah urging you to reevaluate, not to punish you, but to protect you, to redirect you before the damage becomes too deep. It takes humility to listen, especially when your heart is already set. But often, what feels like a painful warning now could save you from long-term regret. So when those who genuinely love you advise against something, listen, reflect, pray again, and know that sometimes the truth is hardest to accept when it conflicts with what you want. But trusting Allah's signs, even when they come through others, will never lead you wrong. You've been making dua sincerely and consistently. You've cried in sujud, asked during the last third of the night, raised your hands after every prayer, and poured your heart out to Allah, begging for guidance, clarity, or a sign. But the more you ask, the more silence you seem to receive. The answer isn't coming how you hoped. The doors remain closed, the path stays unclear, and deep inside you begin to wonder if Allah is even responding. But the truth is He is, just not in the way you expected. Sometimes we expect dua to be answered with a green light, a yes, a blessing, a smooth path forward. But often Allah answers with a closed door, a delayed outcome, or a feeling of discomfort that won't go away. That is an answer. It may not be the one you wanted, but it might be the one you needed, because Allah in His wisdom sometimes responds to your request for guidance by preventing you from walking into something harmful. We must remember that dua is not just a request, it's a conversation with the one who sees what we cannot. And when we ask, Ya Allah, show me if this is good for me, we must be willing to accept His response, even if it's silence, even if it's a delay, even if it's a firm not this. What feels like unanswered dua is sometimes Allah's way of saying, I love you too much to give you this. It's difficult when your heart is attached, when you've already envisioned your future around something or someone, and you ask Allah for it, only to find confusion or resistance. But that lack of clarity itself is a form of clarity. When Allah wants something for you, He paves the way. When He doesn't, He lets the uncertainty linger, not to punish you, but to push you to reconsider. So if your dua is met with silence, if after sincere istikhara and pleading for direction you feel more unsure than ever, take a step back. Maybe Allah is not giving you the answer you're seeking because He's guiding you to ask a better question. Not how can I get this, but is this truly good for my deen, my heart, my akhara? And sometimes walking away isn't giving up on your dua, it's accepting that Allah answered it, not with what you wanted, but with what your soul needed most. Trust that, because He never withholds without purpose. There are moments when certain verses in the Quran seem to follow you everywhere. You open the mushaf, and the ayah speaks directly to your situation. You attend a lecture or scroll through a reminder online, and it echoes exactly what's been on your mind. At first, you think it's just a coincidence, but when it keeps happening again and again, it's no longer random. It's a pattern, and it may be Allah trying to get your attention. Allah speaks to us in ways we often overlook, through His words, through the people around us, through events that unfold in our daily lives. When the same advice keeps reaching you from different sources, when reminders about walking away, about trust in Allah, about letting go of harm keep surfacing, that may be your answer. It's His way of gently guiding you, reminding you, even warning you. Sometimes it's not just the Quran. You notice events repeating in your life. You try to hold on to something, but every attempt ends the same way, with pain, with loss, with regret, and yet you go back thinking maybe this time it will be different. But the outcome stays the same. These cycles aren't punishment, they're lessons. Each time Allah is showing you this isn't where peace lies. The signs might come through dreams, through a conversation with someone you barely know, through something you read or hear at exactly the moment you needed it. And when these moments come repeatedly, especially when they align with your does and your doubts, pause. Reflect. Allah doesn't keep sending a message unless it's important. He knows we sometimes ignore the first whisper, so He sends it again louder. He knows we hesitate, so He brings the message from another direction. And if we still choose not to listen, the discomfort grows until we can no longer pretend not to see. Recognizing these signs requires honesty. It requires humility, the ability to admit that maybe the thing you want so badly is not what Allah wants for you. And that's hard, but ignoring clear signs can lead to greater hardship later. Allah is most merciful, and He never misguides a heart that truly wants to follow Him. So when His signs keep appearing, listen. Because the one who knows the unseen is showing you, in the gentlest way possible, that it may be time to walk away. There comes a point when your heart just feels tired, not from a lack of sleep or a busy schedule, but from carrying too much for too long. You find yourself emotionally drained, constantly anxious, overthinking every step, every word, every silence. The things that used to bring you joy now feel like obligations. The weight you carry isn't always visible to others, but inside you're barely holding it together. And despite your efforts to stay strong, your soul feels worn out. This kind of exhaustion isn't something to ignore. In many cases, it's a sign that you are forcing yourself to stay in a situation that your heart has already outgrown. You keep telling yourself to be patient, to hold on, to make it work, but deep down, you know that what you're enduring is slowly chipping away at your emotional and spiritual well-being, and the more you push through without addressing it, the more distant you feel from your own self. Islam encourages patience, yes, but never at the cost of your health, your dignity, or your connection with Allah. When you're in a constant state of emotional survival, when your days are filled with silent battles and your nights with unspoken tears, that's not a sustainable path. That's not Sabr anymore, it's a warning, a sign that something needs to change. Sometimes your exhaustion is Allah's way of gently reminding you that this isn't the place where your soul will heal, that no matter how much effort you pour into it, some situations were never meant to bring peace. And peace, true peace, is a gift from Him. If something repeatedly robs you of that, then maybe it's not part of the plan He has for you. There is no reward in destroying yourself to keep something alive that Allah is trying to end. And emotional exhaustion is often His softest signal, telling you that it's time to step back, to reevaluate, and maybe to let go. You are not meant to be consumed by something that leaves you empty. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you finally listened to what your heart, your body, and perhaps your Lord have been trying to tell you all along. Sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you no longer feel free to be who you truly are. You're constantly monitoring your words, shrinking your personality, hiding parts of your faith, or pretending to be okay when deep down you're not. Instead of feeling supported and uplifted, you feel restricted, trapped like your soul is locked in a place where it can't breathe. That feeling isn't weakness, it's a sign that something is deeply out of balance. Islam doesn't ask you to imprison yourself in situations that stifle your growth. Allah gave you dignity, worth, and a heart that was made to connect with Him in peace. When you're in a space where you're made to feel like you're not enough, or that your voice doesn't matter, or your dreams are too much, you start losing touch with the very essence of who you are. And that's not what Allah wants for you. Being in something that constantly drains your confidence, suppresses your potential, or makes you doubt your value is not a test of patience anymore. It's a sign that you may be in the wrong place, or with the wrong people, or heading in the wrong direction. True companionship, true work, true purpose, it should help you rise, not chain you down. You should feel more connected to Allah, more in tune with your values, more confident in your path, not like you're always battling just to stay afloat. That feeling of being stuck, like you're walking on a path that no longer feels yours, is not something to normalize. It's a quiet alarm from your fitra, your God-given nature, telling you, you were made for more than this. And when you feel that tension every day, when every step forward feels like dragging chains behind you, perhaps that's your sign. A sign that the thing you're clinging to is not empowering your soul, but caging it. Walking away doesn't always mean quitting. Sometimes it means choosing to live with purpose, to reclaim your dignity, and to make space for something better. Allah does not leave His servant in darkness forever. But He waits for us to recognize the chains we were never meant to carry, and to trust Him enough to break free. There comes a time when you've done everything you possibly can. You've prayed, you've been patient, you've had the conversations, made the compromises, adjusted your expectations, and even questioned yourself, wondering if you're the problem. You've stayed longer than you probably should have, hoping things would improve, believing your efforts would eventually lead to peace or progress. But nothing changes, the same cycle repeats, the same pain resurfaces, the same disappointments return again and again. This isn't about giving up too early. This is after you've given your best, sincerely, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of love, for the sake of growth. But despite it all, you're left with the same result, a situation that remains stuck, a heart that remains heavy, and a life that feels paused. That's not what Allah wants for you. Growth, healing, and movement are part of His mercy. When you're stuck in something that refuses to evolve no matter how much effort you put in, that stagnation could be a sign that it's time to step away. Change requires willingness from both sides, from the people involved, from the circumstances, from the environment. And if the only person trying is you, then what you're in is not a partnership, it's a one-sided struggle. Islam honors hard work and dedication, but it also teaches wisdom, knowing when to act, when to stay, and when to walk away. When Allah doesn't allow something to shift despite your sincerity, it's not a sign that your effort failed. It may be a sign that He's protecting you from a future full of repeated heartache. Allah does not waste the reward of those who do good. Everything you tried is written with Him, but He also sees what you can't, the closed hearts, the hidden consequences, the roads that lead nowhere. And sometimes the only reason the situation hasn't changed is because it's not meant to. He may be telling you that you've fulfilled your role, that your test here is complete, and that your healing will begin the moment you let go. Staying in a cycle that doesn't improve can slowly wear down your faith, your energy, and your hope. If nothing changes after your best effort, maybe that is the change. Maybe Allah is showing you that this is not where your peace lies, and walking away isn't weakness. It might be the first step toward the ease He's been preparing for you all along. Walking away is never easy. It's one of the hardest decisions a believer can make, especially when the heart is involved, when there are memories, attachments, and hope. But faith is not about clinging to what hurts. It's about trusting Allah enough to let go when He shows you the signs. Sometimes the greatest act of tawakkul is stepping away from what you thought you needed and walking toward what Allah has written for you. When your heart is restless, when the path is blocked, when your soul is slowly withering, these aren't small signs. They are divine signals. They're Allah's way of calling you back to Him, to peace, to clarity. You are not weak for choosing your well-being. You are not a failure for letting go of what no longer brings you closer to your Lord. You are simply listening to the signs that Allah has been sending again and again. So don't wait until the damage is too deep. Don't silence your heart when it's crying out for relief, and don't ignore the guidance when Allah makes it clear. Because when you walk away for the sake of Allah, He replaces what you leave behind with something far better. Something that nourishes your heart, strengthens your faith, and brings you closer to Him. May Allah give us the courage to walk away from what harms us, the wisdom to recognize His signs, and the strength to choose Him above all else. Ameen.